This is Yoga Su's mini Yin Yoga class for legs. We begin today's class in Hero's Pose. Use a bolster to place under your hips and in between the knees, or a pillow if you don't have a bolster. Have your thighs as parallel to one another as you can, with the feet tucked in close to or under your hips. If you need to prop yourself up a little higher, be sure to use appropriate props. Allow the arms to rest on your thighs, soften the shoulders, relax your face, and close your eyes. If you find that you do not need a bolster, you can go ahead and remove it. Have your hips in between the feet. Make the backs of your feet as comfortable as possible. Place your hands on your thighs, or place one hand on your belly and the other on your chest. Start to breathe deeply. As you inhale, feel your belly expand and your chest expand. And as you exhale, allow the chest to draw in and the belly to draw in as well. You can keep your hands there or place it back onto your thighs and still continue to focus on your breath. With each exhale, allow your facial features to relax. Soften your cheeks and your jaw. Allow your shoulders to soften. And breathe deeply into your hips, your thighs, your legs. Breathe deeply into the front of the legs. As we move into our yin postures, we want to be able to remain present, but also find a certain softness as we ease into the poses. Begin to let go of our hectic day, of our busy lives, and allow ourselves to be present, to be right here, right now. Stay here in your hero's pose just as you are if you're feeling enough of a stretch to the front of those legs, or begin to move deeper into hero's pose. You can rest on your hands as you lean back away from the knees. You can come down onto your forearms, or you can come all the way down onto your back. Be careful as this is a back bend. You can reach your arms overhead. You can grab opposite elbows or just let the arms rest by your sides. You will get a good stretch to the front of the hips, deeper into the hip flexors in this reclined version of Hero's Pose. If the arms feel uncomfortable overhead, just allow the arms to relax by your sides. Once you've arrived in this pose, allow your breath to flow steadily in and out through the nose. Allow the belly to remain soft, and do your best to soften your legs. If you find this too much of a back bend, and if you're on your back, you may find more comfort placing a pillow or bolster under the spine. Scan the body as you begin to relax through the feet. Breathe deep into the thighs. Allow the arms to grow heavy, softening your fingers and your hands. Feel your collarbones spread. Soften the jaw. Relax the cheeks. Feel your tongue fall away from the roof of your mouth. Soften that space in between your eyebrows, the forehead, and allow the entire body to relax, grow heavy. As with all our yin postures, At any time, if you feel uncomfortable or if the body is telling you to get out of the pose, please feel free to modify, to adjust, or to exit the pose entirely. With 1 more minute left in this pose, feel free to adjust to deepen the stretch or to just remain in this pose. Check in with your breath. Check in to see if your mind has wandered off. If it has, just bring it back to the moment without any judgment. Final few breaths in this pose. Slowly make your way out of this pose by pressing off of your bolster, off of your mat. Slowly start to make your way out with mindful movements. Take some time to stretch out those legs. Our next pose is going to be dragon pose. Before you enter into this pose, take some time to circle the ankles, stretch out those legs in tabletop or even downward facing dog, or even a forward bend just so that you can lengthen out the backs of those legs. To come into dragon pose, it might be helpful to have a blanket under the knee or some cushioning, so a pillow or blanket will do. Come into dragon pose by stepping the right foot forward, have your right knee aligned over the right ankle, and use a couple of blocks on either side of that right foot so that you can place your hand on it. Make sure that the left knee is at least slightly behind the hips and that leg is straight back parallel to the long side of the mat. Place blocks on either side of your front foot so that your hands can rest on it. You can stay right here, or if you need a little bit more, if you can't quite feel the hip flexor stretch, feel free to increase the height of your block and walk the block in a little closer towards the hips so that your belly lifts off of your front thigh. Allow the hips to sink down and forward to deepen the stretch. This pose can be a little bit more intense, so continue to breathe deeply in through the nose and out through the nose. Keep your gaze soft. Relax your jaw and your cheeks. Soften your shoulders. Deep breaths. Oftentimes, because this can be an intense pose, the shoulders may clench up or the jawline may tighten. Do your best to relax those areas. Stay exactly in the same position, or if you need a little bit more to this stretch, lift the left arm up towards the ceiling to create a deeper back bend shape. You can either place your right hand on your thigh or continue to use the block for support. For an even deeper stretch, continue to expand the chest up towards the ceiling and turn your gaze up. Final few breaths. And carefully release from this pose, perhaps a counter pose by stretching out the right leg, shifting your hips back. And take your time again to adjust, maybe a little bit of movement for the hip joints, perhaps a down dog or some massage. And when you're ready, set up for the other side by stepping the left foot forward. Once again, make sure that the left knee is stacked over the left ankle and that the right leg is straight back. Make sure that the right knee is at least slightly behind the hips for this pose to be effective. Make use of blocks, place it on either side of the front foot. If you need a little bit more, once again, raise the level of the block and walk those blocks in a little closer towards the hips for a deeper stretch. Once you've achieved the pose, remain in that pose and continue to breathe deeply in through the nose and out through the nose, keeping a steady gaze and keeping your shoulders and upper body relaxed. Deepen the stretch by allowing the hips to sink down and forward. As we move into our final minute of this pose, remain in the same position, or to deepen the stretch, lift the right arm up towards the ceiling, turning your gaze up as well. You can rest your left hand on your thigh or continue to use the block for support. Deepen the stretch by drawing that right arm back a little bit more and lifting your gaze up towards the ceiling, expanding the chest. Steady breaths. Remain focused. Breathe. Very carefully begin to move out of this pose. Take a counter stretch by shifting your hips back and straightening the left leg. You can move into a downward dog for a counter stretch, or even just tabletop, just to move the hip joints a little bit of rotation. And we'll slowly make our way into our next pose, which is seated forward bend. Give yourself a little advantage of a lift through the hips by placing a blanket under the hips. This encourages a forward tilt in the pelvic bone, which eases the forward bend. You can stay upright if you're already feeling this stretch, or you can place a bolster in between your thighs and your belly for a little bit of support. As you come into this forward bend, it may be comfortable to place blocks under the forehead so that you can relax your forehead on an object. A slight rounding of the spine is fine, as long as this does not hurt your back. We are looking for a good stretch to the back of the legs. You can continue to lower the level of the block or remove it altogether. If you find that you need a deeper stretch, you can place a block at the soles of your feet and this will allow you to come into a deeper forward bend as you hold on to that block. Breathe deep into your low back, breathe deep into your upper back, and then allow the body to settle into this pose. Every once in a while, you may want to lift up slightly to lengthen the spine and then fall deep into that forward bend once again. Into the final few breaths of your forward bend, very carefully start to press your way back up into seated. Take a few counter movements. You can do windshield wipers, you can roll out your ankles and move your toes. Whenever you're ready, begin to move into shoelace. Come into shoelace, wrap your right knee over the left leg. If you have knee issues, keep that left leg straight out in front of you. If not, tuck it into shoelace. Seated upright is perfectly fine for this pose if you're feeling the stretch to your hips and your IT band. However, if you need a little bit more, you can start to bow forward with a slight rounding of the spine. As with our seated forward bend, you can place a block under the head for a little bit more comfort. If you feel that you're able to adjust the block to a lower level, go ahead and do that. If you find that you are not quite getting enough of a stretch, you can always inch the feet forward a little bit more so that the shins are parallel to the tops of your mat. Once you've settled into your pose, allow your breath to flow freely, slow and steady. With each exhale, find more softness. Let go a little bit more. Breathe deep into your low back to soften. Breathe deep into those tight hips. Relax your arms, relax your shoulders, soften your face. As we move into the final minute of this pose, you might want to remain here or add a little twist to this pose. Keep the legs in the same position, but rotate towards your right side. Take your left hand and place it to the outside of your right thigh and turn your gaze over the right shoulder. Keep the spine tall even as you rotate. Final few breaths. With mindful movements, rotate the spine back to the front, unwind the legs, take some windshield wipers or any other intuitive moves before we make our way to shoelace on the other side. As we come into shoelace on the other side, you may want to keep the right leg straight out in front of you or tuck it in. We have the left knee on top of the right with the knees as close to one another as you can and thighs close together. Allow the belly to draw towards the thigh and then softly round the spine if you're looking for a deeper stretch to the hips. As with the other side, use your block to prop the head up, adjusting the level of block as necessary. Once you've got your pose, allow the body to relax. Focus on your breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. As we move into the final minute of this pose, if you did a spinal twist on the other side, move into the spinal twist on this side as well. Place your right hand to the outside of the left thigh, keep the spine tall, and rotate the chest towards the left side with a gentle gaze over the left shoulder. Just a few more breaths. And very carefully start to unwind the legs, Take some intuitive movements here, allowing the knees to drop side to side in windshield wipers. And we're going to come onto our back to either take Sholasana or to take Recline Cobbler's pose. Start by drawing the knees into the chest, giving it a little bit of a roll out. To do Cobbler's pose, you may have your soles of the feet together and let those knees open up, placing the feet on a pillow or a bolster. Alternatively, it might feel very nice to have the pillow or the bolster under your knees. Draw the feet in a little closer towards the hips and let those knees open up, supported by bolsters. Come into supported Shavasana by having the bolster under the knees and the legs stretched out. Relax your arms. Let the palms face upwards, and shoulders relaxing. Soften your belly. Relax your chest. Let tensions ease off the shoulders. And with your next exhale, relax your facial features. Soften your jaw and your cheeks. Relax the space in between your eyebrows and soften all the way up to the crown of your head. And with calm, relaxed body and calm, relaxed mind, enjoy this pose. Slowly begin to make your way out of this pose. Start to awaken the body with some small movements. If you have your knees open up in Cobbler's pose, draw those knees in closer towards one another. And then allow the head to drop gently side to side. And if you feel like taking a big stretch, reach your arms overhead and take a big stretch from toes to fingertips. Hug your knees into the chest. Rock side to side. And then roll your way over to your favorite side. Come into fetal position and remain for a few breaths. With a slightly rounded spine, just enjoy this pose a little longer. And when you are ready, press your way back up into a comfortable seated position. I thank you very much for your time, and namaste.